Picture this. The final minutes of Monday Night Raw. The Frost Bank Center in San Antonio, Texas is buzzing. The crowd has been through it all tonight: title matches, returns, chaos, and they think the show is winding down. The lights are still up. The ring is still set. And then, the music hits. The glass shatters. And San Antonio loses its mind. CM Punk, World Heavyweight Champion, walks out onto that stage in a black hoodie, championship draped over his shoulder, and the look on his face isn't excitement. It isn't showmanship. It's something colder than that. Something calculated. He's not out here to entertain you. He's out here to finish something. Welcome back to Wrestling Impact. I'm your host, and tonight, we are breaking down one of the most explosive, most layered, most emotionally charged segments WWE has produced in years. On the March 16, 2026 episode of Monday Night Raw, CM Punk walked into that ring, and he left Roman Reigns flat on the canvas. But what you need to understand, what makes this moment so much bigger than just a punch, is everything that led to it. The words, the history, the wounds that got torn back open before a single fist was thrown. So buckle in, because this story, it didn't start last Monday. Let's go back to the Royal Rumble in 2026. Roman Reigns, the original tribal chief, the man who defined what it meant to be the most dominant force in WWE for the better part of a decade, stood at the end of that Rumble with his arm raised, having outlasted 29 other men. And with that win came a declaration, a destination: WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas, and the World Heavyweight Championship. And who holds that title? The one man in this entire industry who lives for exactly this kind of collision. CM Punk. Now understand what that announcement meant to both men on a level that goes way beyond championships and pay-per-views. CM Punk spent years away from this company. He burned bridges, he spoke his mind in ways that cost him enormously, and when he came back, there were people, a lot of people, who whispered behind closed doors that he'd never recapture what he once was, that the window had closed, that time had moved on without him. And Punk? He came back, he clawed his way to the top of Monday Night Raw, and he is now the World Heavyweight Champion, heading into the grandest stage in sports entertainment. Roman Reigns, on the other hand, is the man who redefined legacy in this business. The tribal chief. The head of the table. The man who held the undisputed WWE Championship for over 1,300 days. When Roman Reigns tells you that Raw is still his yard, that every superstar, every champion, every icon who walks through that curtain does so because he allowed it, it's not arrogance. It's a curriculum vitae. It's a resume that speaks for itself. So you have two men who have each in their own way believed with every fiber of their being that they are the standard, that everything else in WWE measures itself against them. And now they're on a collision course for WrestleMania. Of course it was never going to be civil. It started getting personal weeks before March 16. CM Punk, never one to play within the lines of comfortable television, made comments about Roman's family, about his bloodline, about what the Reigns name actually means when you strip away the theatrics. He invoked Reigns' late father, Sika, one of the most respected names in the history of this business, and he used that as a weapon. Not clumsily, not recklessly, with the precise, surgical cruelty that only someone who has spent years studying the emotional architecture of his opponents can deliver. The Usos, Jimmy and G, the cousins, the men who understand what family means to Roman Reigns on a molecular level, they reacted with fury. You saw it in their eyes backstage on Raw. Roman, Jimmy, G, huddled together, the air thick with something that went beyond business. This wasn't about championships anymore. This was about bloodline honor. This was about the kind of disrespect that doesn't get forgotten, that gets answered. And the answer came on March 16 in San Antonio. Roman Reigns came out first, and there was something different about him that night. Not the usual poised, measured tribal chief energy. This was Roman with something to prove. He stepped into that ring and he started talking, and what he said was directed at one man specifically. He called Punk out. He told the World Heavyweight Champion that he could talk about bloodlines and legacies and history all he wanted, but that all of it still belonged to Roman Reigns. That Raw was still his domain. That Punk could carry the title around, but everyone in that building and everyone watching at home knew who the real authority in WWE was. The crowd was split. You had San Antonio, a deeply passionate wrestling city, divided between those who never stopped riding with the tribal chief and those who had fallen completely under the spell of the best in the world. You could feel the electricity in the arena like a living thing. And then CM Punk's music hit. He walked down the aisle without hurrying. He never hurries. That's one of the things that makes Punk so uniquely unsettling as a performer, his patience. Most people, when they're angry, move fast. Punk moves slow. He takes his time, he lets the anticipation build, and by the time he steps through those ropes you are absolutely certain that whatever comes next is going to matter to he got in Roman's face. Not metaphorically. Physically. In the ring. The two men stood inches apart and began exchanging words that you could feel more than hear. Punk went straight at the jugular. He told Reigns that the only reason he ever got to sit at the head of any table was because Punk built the table. He told Roman that before the Shield, before the Bloodline, before the 1,300-day reign, there was CM Punk, holding this company on his back when nobody else could. He reminded Reigns and every single person watching that Punk was the one who paved the road that Roman got to drive on. Now, you want to talk about a needle that finds the nerve? That's it. Because here's the thing, there is a version of that argument that has merit. CM Punk's WWE Championship reign. The pipe bomb. The summer of Punk. Those weren't just moments in wrestling history. They were cultural earthquakes that changed the conversation about what a WWE superstar could be, what a champion could say, what this industry could mean to people who thought they'd grown out of it. And Punk knows that. He knows it gives him moral authority in this argument that cuts through everything Roman can throw back. Roman, to his credit, didn't fold. He looked at Punk with the kind of contempt that you have to earn through years of believing in your own superiority, and he said the thing that he knew would land. He called Punk old. He reminded him that 2026 isn't 2011, that the version of CM Punk who made those moments happen was a younger man. That time, that relentless, indifferent force that takes things from all of us, eventually time had come for Punk 2.0. San Antonio did not like that. And CM Punk definitely did not like that. Here's what's remarkable about what happened next. There were people backstage, and reports have come out confirming this, who expected the segment to go somewhere even darker. The original creative direction apparently involved Roman responding to Punk's comments about his father with a line about Punk's dog, Larry, who passed away in December of 2025. Larry was Punk and AJ Lee's rescue dog, a beloved member of their family for years. And the idea of going there, of weaponizing genuine personal grief to escalate a wrestling rivalry, was considered, seriously considered, before WWE made the call to pull back from that edge. They chose instead to keep the confrontation volatile but focused on the rivalry itself, on the careers, on the characters. And honestly, that restraint made what came next hit harder. Because when Roman Reigns called CM Punk old, when he stood there with that smirk, that infuriating, composed, dismissive smirk, something in Punk's expression changed. The controlled fury that he'd been managing all night just crystallized. And then he threw the punch. Not a worked, theatrical punch that sails wide and lets the opponent sell. A CM Punk punch. Sharp. Direct. The kind that ends conversations. Roman Reigns went down. The Frost Bank Center erupted. Security swarmed the ring immediately, bodies flooding in from everywhere to separate the two men before this became something that couldn't be undone 3 weeks before WrestleMania. But the image was already burned into the retinas of everyone in that building and everyone watching at home. The World Heavyweight Champion had just dropped the Royal Rumble winner in the middle of Monday Night Raw, and the message could not have been clearer. This is what WrestleMania 42 is going to feel like. Now let's talk about what that moment actually means in the larger context of this feud, because I think it's worth slowing down and unpacking the layers here. CM Punk and Roman Reigns are both men who have defined entire eras of this company, but they've done it in fundamentally different ways. Punk defined his era through authenticity, through being so brutally, uncomfortably real that the company had to either embrace him or lose him, and famously, for years, they chose the latter. Roman defined his era through elevation, through being built, methodically and deliberately, into the kind of mountain that others were meant to fail against. There's a philosophical collision embedded in this rivalry that goes beyond gold. It's a question about what WWE actually values. Is it the fire and the truth and the willingness to burn everything down? Or is it the machine, the process, the carefully constructed inevitability? CM Punk represents one answer. Roman Reigns represents the other. And WrestleMania is where those two philosophies meet. What made that punch so resonant isn't just the physical moment, it's the context. Roman told Punk he was old. He told him that the window had closed. And Punk's response, immediate, definitive, undeniable, was to demonstrate that he still has the fastest and most dangerous hands in this company. That whatever age is supposed to take from a man, it hasn't taken that from CM Punk. Think about the fans who were in that building. Think about the people watching at home, the ones who have followed Punk since the pipe bomb, the ones who cried when he left, the ones who lost their minds when he came back. For them, that punch wasn't just a wrestling moment. It was validation. It was proof that the man they invested in emotionally, the man they never stopped believing in even when the company seemed to have moved past him, that man is still here. Still real. Still dangerous. And think about Roman's fan base, the ones who have ridden with the bloodline through every chapter, who have watched Roman build something unprecedented in this industry. For them, seeing the tribal chief get dropped is a wound. But it's a wound that makes WrestleMania feel essential. Because now this isn't just a championship match. This is personal. This is Roman Reigns having to answer something. Having to prove that being called old is not a verdict. That being knocked down is not a conclusion. Las Vegas in April. WrestleMania 42. CM Punk defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Roman Reigns. And after what happened in San Antonio, after that punch, after those words, after everything that has been said and done and implied in this rivalry, I genuinely do not know how that match ends. I'm not sure the people inside WWE know how that match ends. And that uncertainty? That electric, almost uncomfortable not knowing? That is the sign of a storyline that is firing on every single cylinder. There are questions that WrestleMania has to answer now. Can Roman Reigns, who has operated for years as the kind of figure who isn't supposed to be vulnerable, who isn't supposed to go down, can he reclaim that aura after being laid out on live television? Can CM Punk walk into the biggest stage in sports entertainment, with all the history and all the narrative weight pressing down on him, and leave with the championship he has bled for? And what happens with the Usos? With the Bloodline? That family honor that was invoked weeks ago, does it have a role to play in Las Vegas? The road to WrestleMania runs through moments exactly like what we witnessed on March 16th. It runs through the moments that make you grab the person next to you and say, "Did you just see that?" It runs through the punches that echo, the words that cut, the confrontations that turn a championship match into something that feels like it matters beyond pro wrestling. That moment in San Antonio was one of those moments. And we are weeks away from the payoff. If you are not locked in for WrestleMania 42, if you are not counting down the days, then you missed what CM Punk just communicated to the entire world with one punch to Roman Reigns' jaw. He is not here to participate. He is here to define this era. He is here to prove every doubter, every whisper, every raised eyebrow wrong. He is here to be the best in the world when it matters most. And Roman Reigns, proud, fierce, driven by something that goes deeper than any championship, is going to have something to say about that. Drop everything you're thinking about WrestleMania 42 and lock in. Because if this is the preview, if this is what we got with 3 weeks still to go, I don't even have the words for what April 19th is going to feel like. If you're with us here at Wrestling Impact, if you live for these moments, if this is the kind of storytelling that keeps you coming back every Monday, then let us know in the comments below. Tell me how you think WrestleMania 42 ends. Does CM Punk walk out still champion? Does Roman Reigns reclaim his place at the top? And was that punch in San Antonio the greatest closing image of this entire WrestleMania season so far? I want to hear from you. If you're new here, welcome. This is Wrestling Impact. We don't do surface level. We don't just tell you what happened. We tell you why it matters. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and come back every single week, because the road to WrestleMania is getting loud, and you don't want to miss a single mile of it. Until next time, stay passionate, stay locked in, and never forget, this is not just wrestling. This is everything.